Okay, so hello everyone. Very nice to meet all of you over here today. So I'll share my screen. Please say when loaded.
Works.
Okay, so first of all, we should go straight to the bullet about the team. And today we will try to provide to you a list of things which might help you in moving your startup from idea to release with a bit more chances of success. So straight to the bullet, as mentioned, you'll get this list. It will be summarized, and if you wish, it will be also sent to your email after a conference. So first of all, you need to not make mistakes and be sure that you've done some quite basic but yet not so obvious things all across. Among those things, first of all, you need to border main idea and prepare a roadmap before diving deep into development. What does it mean? In some cases, with some companies, startup owners decides to, let's say, make a very simple sketches, have quite simple idea, and just go to development right on the go, taking management on their own or hiring some additional managers. But in lot of cases across all of the small idea, more and more points appearing. And with those points, they are quite painful to be solved later on. It's better to spend some time on this if you have such possibility. Second point which need to be considered, and it's straight to the bullet connected to first point, is to consider launch strategy and monetization plan. Of course, for not all startups, obvious monetization plans are applicable, yet it's very crucial since according to monetization strategy, we can select in what kind we can stay in line with our possible competitors and on which features we should focus. Next thing is to process as many designs and flows as possible before actual development starts. Eventually, if you as startup owner will hire some consultants or work on your own and quite experienced development of a product, it's like building a house and selecting a furniture inside of it. It's like never endless process. And the earlier some decisions made, the better and cheaper this would be. Less effects on budget and possible problems will be later on faced on life cycle of your startup. Eventually, next thing, which is also quite hard to catch on, is start small, go big. What meant on this is try not to extend and put in absolute points of bordering and preparing initial designs, since in this case, it's also may turn to never-ending process. In case you need to go and do more and more features, it is suggested to border features with releases. Case you cannot do, let's say, designs, documentation, and all the preparation, including search for investments and so on, in a lot of cases during a few months. So it's better in this case to split it to releases. Also, if you can, try to make initial A/B testing for some features, maybe with a very simplified skeleton of those features and with some questionnaires during your discovery, documenting, and design phase. It may appear that you or a team you work with are quite advanced users, which might point or focus on some things not so convenient and not so crucial for monetization for not so advanced users. Same is with personal tastes of you or your team. Not always this corresponds to wide or your target audience. Next thing is in order to get faster releases and faster return of investments, in order to evolve your startup furthermore, it's suggested to consider using third-party integrations and open source libraries where it's applicable for faster delivery and for just get it done earlier. This is also might be very crucial in cases when some systems like support systems or email campaign systems or tracking things will be huge costs in development, and in some cases, even if you have such costs, it might be better to invest them in some usable features. And the next point, which is also usually missed by a lot of clients, don't hesitate to ask about such possibilities from your potential development providers. So it's okay to ask, maybe we can use some product or library for this one or that one feature. And the last point from my experience, but not the last, case you facing all else being equal, you facing great professionals, you are struggling between choosing companies, I suggest you to prefer domain pieces of knowledge and experience of persons with which you will work potentially directly. Not to visual beautiness of commercial proposal or solidity of VP persons. So obviously in a lot of cases, there are great specialists and tons of cases are done within our company, within many other companies. There are beautiful suggestions, beautiful presentations, but try to avoid cases when you start working with or being presented from one person who, of course, has great domain knowledges and so on and so on. And later on, you simply might work with teams which are not related to those cases and not as good in work experience and other points as persons you initially contacted with. So thanks for attention here, and maybe you have some specific questions or already starting your projects about points before, so I could quickly suggest about what you need to do in some short situations. If not rapidly in any way, you can ask some questions at the end of the event. There will be a special time slot for this purpose.
You're welcome to type any questions in the chat here.
Okay, so thanks a lot for attention. As mentioned, list might be forwarded to you, and if you're starting one of your projects or willing to start, it might be helpful to just be sure that you have all those things checked in mind or planning to do. Thanks and good luck in UDK. Giving the word to next speaker.
Okay, so I think we have to move forward, and now we are going to listen about how UI and UX design boosts customer engagement by TETIANA Mikhalova.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. I will start sharing my screen right now. My name is Tatiana. I'm design tech lead at Computools, and I want to thank you for attending our event. It's very nice to see you here, and I hope that the following information will help you to successfully guide your business through 2022. And as the time frames for this event are pretty short, I've put here the essential and most crucial points. So for our attendees who work with UX designers and UX researchers, the points I will mention are most likely already familiar to you. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions to get deeper into the topic. And to people who haven't purposefully worked on the user experience aspect of their products, I hope that the following information will introduce you to the world of UX design and will help benefit your business. So please also feel free to ask any questions you have at the end of this presentation. So getting to the point. First of all, I will introduce you to the definitions of different design areas. So the people who are not familiar with them would comfortably communicate with the design and development teams they work with. What is customer experience? Customer experience encloses all the interactions a person has with your company or your brand. It includes brand strategy, marketing strategy, sales strategy, digital and non-digital products, store or office, and your customer service. So it's about the overall experience the human gets from your company. User experience refers to an experience a person gets while using the digital product. So UX contains content strategy, information architecture, how the content is organized in your product, and the user interface of your product. And the user interface is the look and feel, which is created to enhance the user experience. It incorporates visual design, motion design, and interaction design. So overall, how it works, CX versus UX versus UI. Basically, user experience is a part of a bigger thing, which is a customer experience. And user experience is about the digital aspect of the user's interaction with your company. And the user interface is the look and feel of your digital product. I hope this makes the situation clear, because our clients tend to ask these questions when they first come to us. So now I'm going to pinpoint the main things to pay attention to boost the engagement of your customers and therefore your product's success. First of all, meet your customers' needs. It might sound obvious, but the successful product is always located at the intersection of goals of the business from one side, the needs of the customer from the other side, and the capabilities of the technology used. So leaving the needs of the customer out of your attention will tremendously influence the performance of your product on the market. And the less you pay attention to your customer, the less the chance they will consume your product and support your business, and vice versa. The more you study your customers' needs and desires, the better you are able to fulfill them and get people using only your product for their needs over and over again. To pinpoint some numbers, 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience, according to the CEI survey, and 89% of customers will have stopped doing business with the company after experiencing poor customer service, which is according to the Right Now Customer Experience Impact Report. So researching your customers' needs is a part of the UX specialist's job, and it's important to pay attention to this aspect. Next point is creating the user-centric content instead of product-centric content. It's in a way said true. that customers care more of their own problems and needs than your business or your product. And they don't care basically how objectively good your product is or how much effort you put into it. They see it from the perspective of what value they can get from it. So the strategy of the content should be to help your customers and not to describe your business. You can achieve it by understanding and empathizing your target audience, choosing the topics that concern them, and create the corresponding content that fulfills their needs. Also, some numbers, 64% of consumers want brands to connect with them, and customers who rate a company as delivering a good customer experience are 34% more likely to purchase more and 37% more likely to recommend the company. The next point is usability. Aim for usability and don't forget to test it. The ability of the product to be clear and attractive can increase ROI many times compared to poor design. And as an example, there is a fun case when an online store increased purchases by 45% after just removing some mandatory registration, bringing in 15 million in profit in the first month. So small tweak and big result. Also, take care of the aesthetics and visual design of your product. 38% of people will stop engaging with the website if the content or layout is unattractive. And 94% of the visitors closed websites or stopped trusting the site with the outdated web design. And just for your information, such judgments are made within just 4 or 5 seconds of viewing the website, and it's purely subjective, but also it impacts tremendously on how people evaluate your digital product. The next point is more technical. It's about the loading speed of the web products. It's super important to retain users because the research show that the average bounce rate for pages loading within 2 seconds is 9%. And as soon as page load time surpasses 3 seconds, the bounce rate increases to 38% by the time it hits 5 seconds. So when creating your website or any, I'm sorry, just a moment. So when you're creating design of your digital product, please pay attention to adding some trendy 3D animations or heavy videos because they influence the loading speed and therefore they tend to decrease the amount of people who continue interacting with your website. And the conclusion, to sum it up, researching your target audience needs and opinions and implementing this data in your product design may highly influence the experience which people get from it. Therefore, they find it fulfilling and unique. If they find it fulfilling and unique in terms of the value they get, they will stick to using it and this way benefit your business. Thank you for your attention. I hope I managed to broadcast the importance of user experience in the product success, and please feel free to ask any questions you have. Okay, I suppose there are no questions right now, so I'm passing my word back to Alexandra.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. So the next topic will be the positive impact the pandemic had on artificial intelligence and machine learning in 2022. The predictions by DMYTRO SHEVTSOV. So you're welcome to start. Thank you.
Hey everyone, first of all, thank you for showing up, and thanks Computools for hosting this event. Really glad to be here. So guys, I'm gonna share my screen right now to show you some really useful and interesting information. Let's get right to it. I hope you can see my screen right now. Good. So speaking of the topic, you might think like, this is a bit controversial, or else you might think like, oh God, COVID again? But hey, first of all, AI and machine learning become more and more involved in the daily processes and like in all kinds of industries, especially the ones that require large amounts of data, and especially in medical industry included. And of course, the unique case of COVID-19 has become a huge thing for UI and for AI enthusiasts and machine learning enthusiasts. Specialists use machine learning to study the virus, to process statistical data, which is important for medical industry right now, and test potential treatments. And given the fact that there's more and more devices designed to monitor health, to report the measurements, we are talking about a parallel world in the medtech industry, which would not be that advanced without COVID impact. And here we go to the first thing. And here is our topic for today, to consider the impact that COVID had on AI. And the first thing I would like to talk about is accuracy. As reported by the National Institute of Health, especially partnered with several agencies, machine learning and machine intelligence is rapidly becoming an important approach across biomedical discovery, clinical research, medical diagnostics, and precision medicine. And the tools can cover new possibilities. Researchers, physicians, and patients allow them make more informed decisions and achieve better outcomes. And this is actually why the machine learning becomes more and more involved in everyday processes, because it really gives you the tools that help you make more informed decisions based on the real data from real life and based on the data that's taken from history. And being incorporated in so many niches, AI transitions Internet of Things into Internet of Behavior. And this is the thing number 2 that I would like to talk about, which is a result of COVID impact. In this case, the monitoring systems get more and more united in one, which not only reports statistical data, but instead it gives an information about the behavior in general. For example, this works great for larger plants or farms where the health is monitored not only for humans, but animals as well. In the past, banks used machine learning for user data processing, where they could spot a potentially problematic client, evaluate risks of loans not getting paid back. And even though the topic already seems to require a high level of accuracy, which is another important aspect of machine learning industry in general, working with medical equipment and disease diagnosis requires even higher accuracy. Just as an example, while working with another accounting company on the app that automatically reads the data from documentation using technology of optical character recognition, we tightened the accuracy of a model until the client asked us to stop at 68% of accuracy. Can you imagine that? 68%. And this is official documentation and financial data. This is pretty accurate thing. Not even stepping into medical equipment and wildly sharp measurements. When working with analysis of average health reports, the accuracy of 68% is like nowhere near good. It's nowhere near acceptable. All of us can recall how poor was the accuracy of COVID tests from the very beginning of the pandemic. And of course, these factors instantly impacted the race for high accuracy. And here we come to even more complex stuff like predicting the structure of proteins and their interactions with chemical compounds to facilitate new antiviral drugs or vaccines or recommend current drugs. This is where it is now. And speaking of the behavior, now don't get me wrong, machine learning and AI helped during the COVID era a lot. It was involved in supply chains, in convincing so many people of really considering the problem seriously. Tons of data were processed faster than ever before. But there is the thing, when the industry grows on its own, independently, its directions may not work for some other industries. One of the main ideas in the machine learning industry is using history data, where the principle is that patterns and behaviors learned from history data will likely repeat in the future. This is important here because algorithmic models spot these patterns and use them to predict the behavior in future. This worked well with subscription-based services like models could say with high accuracy whether a client with certain behavior will likely cancel the service or not. And now the whole world lives absolutely different kind of life, where offices are empty, public transportation is used less likely, and people plan leaving their homes to go to the store in advance. Travel ban, keeping distances. The behavior has changed. And now the same models cannot give a proper accuracy of prediction anymore. And if you continue using those previously built data models and feed them with the new data, for example, it completely gets them out of the rails, off the rails completely. And even once the normal emerges back, organizations won't be out of the woods. Some patterns of data captured during the COVID-19, for example, extraordinary high demand for hygiene products, will become irrelevant. New lasting patterns such as higher consumer spending on digital channels will emerge, invalidating or reducing the predictive power of pre-COVID models and data as well, of course. Let's go to the next one, which is behavior. And as you can see, I put here a part of McKinsey discovery here about, some numbers to give you an idea about the urgency of implementation that took place during the COVID era. And of course, the fact that all of us work from home made the executives look towards resilience in their businesses, where digital transformation became one of the most important steps, one of the key steps, with many companies already struggling and consumers scaling back their spendings on buying through different channels. Gaining and keeping loyal customers has been pretty critical, especially the longevity of customer life for you. And Nikita already spoke about return of investments in business through digital transformation and software development, and we're going to get back to this point in a minute. And before COVID, AI was often seen as an important space to pursue, of course, but at times lacked buy-in from the C-suite. But in the past year and even 2 years, it has proven that to be an essential asset for businesses to reach customers and maintain operations, and for people to function within day-to-day lives. In March, it was remarkable to see two enormous shifts occur simultaneously. First, buyers demand new, absolutely new and safe ways of interacting with organizations. Second, organizations were able to deliver the methods to make it possible. According to researches conducted just 3 years ago, 21% of consumers had daily AI-enabled transactions. As of July 2020, that increased to 54%. As people embrace chatbots, digital assistants, voice and facial recognition, and biometric scanners to replace person-to-person contact, consumer trust in AI-driven interactions also spiked from 30% in 2018 to 46% in 2020, which is a COVID era exactly. From contactless ordering to retail, groceries, restaurants, health interactions replacing in-office doctor visit, the consumer adoption of these touchless transactions has been a key and consistent challenge. Organizations are realizing that these methods are likely to disappear once the pandemic ends. Thing number 5 that COVID era has changed for AI and machine learning is that history is kind of broken for predictive modeling. Those changing consumer behaviors creating an abrupt reality for data science teams. Predictive AI and machine learning models and the data they derived from were almost instantly outdated, just like we told before, and in many cases reduced to irrelevance. But in a world of tightened spending, limited purchasing options, changing demand patterns, and restricted engagement with customers, the historical data no longer applied. To combat this problem at a time when companies could not afford inaccurate predictions or revenue lost, AI teams turned to such solution as real-time, ever-changing forecasting by constantly updating and turning their predictive models to include incoming data from the new pandemic-driven patterns, the ones that appear right now. Organizations were able to reduce data drift and more effectively chart their paths through the crisis and recovery period. Thing number 6 that COVID has changed for ML and AI world. In digital transformation, AI almost equals return of investment. Yeah, I understand this is a pretty controversial statement, and I do agree that it can be judged, you can argue on that, but here, with the companies need to make difficult choices during these years. I believe that if you work with companies of a huge scale, you saw that it's not that easy to make predictions on how things are going to change in the nearest time. In the past, companies used to plan 5-7 years ahead. These days, it's irrelevant. Do these companies put their projects and initiatives on pause and wait for the pandemic to subside, or push forward in applying AI as a competitive definition during these challenging times? Many saw the latter as the best option, as advanced technology capabilities could be leveraged to better predict the future, or conducting business through a real view mirror, which is actually a result of machine learning. However, that also came with natural pushback from the business, since budgets were being tightened amid economic uncertainty. When this is actually the same that happened to separated personalities to the huge companies, because the budgets were optimized to keep intact. When technology transformations involved AI deployments, organizations have an enormous opportunity to gain business advantage, while also receiving very high return of investments. By choosing the proper use cases and executing correctly, AI-driven projects can pay for themselves within the first 6 months of deployment and bring multiple return of investments through project or program life. The upfront investments in areas such as data transformation to enable AI may seem very daunting. However, best practice case studies have proven that the more self-funded businesses case can actually be achieved. And this is what we see here when we start looking at the smaller companies that get involved in this modern business and start by digitalizing their processes right away from the very beginning. All right, guys, this is it. This is what I wanted to talk about. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them. You can ask them in chat, or yeah, please write them down in chat, and we're gonna talk about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dmitry. That was great. So I'd like to introduce the next speaker. It's going to be Oleg Hudym with the topic, which management models should companies use in 2022? So Oleg, you can start.
Thank you, Alexander. So good evening to everyone. Thanks for attending the conference like this Thursday evening. So let me please get to my topic. Hopefully the screen has loaded. Yeah, so what inspired me to dedicate some time to this topic is actually that I often hear from potential clients such question: for what options should we look at if we would like to build or develop an IT product? So how are we gonna do this? So let's start on the first information. Actually, the COVID time has slowed down the speed of digital development, but according to Gartner, the things will normalize in the next year. So the total investment that will be targeted in the IT field will be more than $4 trillion next year. So let me please also focus on how the software development team should look like. So often some new people in the IT world, they suppose that they can hire a full stack developer and he or she will do the whole job for them. So in some small projects that can really work. But if you would like really to build a successful product, so you would like to have positions for the following list. So this should be a product owner, software architect, project manager, business analyst, at least on the management side, and some guys working in front-end team, some guys working in the back-end team, QA team, DevOps, and UX UI design team. So this is a short description of the responsibilities for each role. Product owner is basically a person that is fully focused on the product. He knows how it should work and what features should be included in order for the product to fulfill its business value. So software architect is a very important role, who actually plans the product from the technical side, chooses technology stacks, what tools should be used, what platforms should be chosen, what integrations, and so on. So he basically the builder of the project. Project manager is a professional who plans software development process based on timeline that is dedicated for the project, for the budget that is available, and as well for the resources that are gonna to work on the project. So to combine all these factors to bring the best result. So business analyst is actually a person who works very closely with a product owner, with the client, and this is a person who knows the domain, the industry of the project very well, and he helps to prepare the documentation, which will be further used by the technical team to successfully deliver the project. So, and actually he gathers features that the client would like to include in the project, and he transforms them into actual tasks for developers. So for the team that is going to work on the project on a daily basis, so this is a backend team which works with the data access layer to ensure smooth work of the product on the server side. Front-end team will actually do its best to make the presentation layer which is available to the customer, to the product user, and make it visibly and interactively attractive to the end user. QA team will work very closely to test the product, to identify some potential bugs or inconsistencies in the system, and to indicate the front end or back end team that something might be rechecked to work properly. The IT product usually will require a DevOps who will oversee the code releases and continuous set of processes to ensure that the product works stable in all the environments. So he will be the guardian of the project to prevent some outages of it when it is already working on the production side. And obviously, as Tatiana has mentioned before, a very important part is for the UX UI design team, who will create beautiful wireframes, make the project look attractive from the user experience and user interface perspective. Now let's focus on the management models that the client may potentially use. So the first model is actually build an in-house team. Try to find those professionals that I mentioned before, who will definitely work for the client, maybe in some of his offices. Another model is time and material model, where the IT team of the clients may lack some resources and they are going to some of digital agencies or freelancers to close target positions they miss. And the third approach is solution type model, which is basically in its nature very close to outsourcing, when the development and planning of the product is given to professional team, in other words, service provider. So let's now check the pros and cons of each concept. So if we are talking about in-house team, the pros are obviously the team is working at your office or at your location. You know them personally, you meet them every day. So this gives you a lot of advantages for sure. So most probably there will be no language or cultural differences if this is a team that is working in your city. So third important advantage is that the team, if it's working very long on the project, so it can develop a really deep understanding of the product, and they can fix all the problems very quickly. And another advantage is that you can plan the workload according to your company's working schedule. So for example, if you know that there are some long holidays ahead, so you can plan the launch or releases together with your team, so to avoid such situations. But at the same time, in-house approach team has some kind of disadvantages, which product owners or clients may face when they are going to build their solution. So this actually high salaries to find the best talents, because the biggest part of software developers are already working for IT solutions companies worldwide. So there is a hard competition to find someone who can join your team. Another significant disadvantage is that you will need to dedicate some substantial costs to create and support a workspace to provide each team member with PC, with a comfortable workspace, and obviously these are some substantial costs that you're going to spend. Another disadvantage is that if a person works for you in-house, so you're going to pay taxes for them, which can be really high in some countries. So these are some bonuses to encourage them to work more effectively. And obviously, like sick leaves, if it's such a situation on the project that a team member got some illness, so of course it's preferable to pay sick leaves to them. Another problem is employee retention difficulties, as obviously I working in the IT may be associated with some burnout and routinious work over time, and it can be rather challenging to keep the control over that, so every team member will feel comfortable and would like not to leave your company. Additionally, there is a problem with scaling up teams. So you may have one team, but if your project gets more successful or it requires more talents to join, so scaling up the team can be really not a quick process, I would say. Also, challenges with team reduction when the product is finished and you don't want to maybe develop some new features, you just want to support it, and obviously some team members will not be necessarily present on the project, so it can be very difficult to say goodbye to them. Also, there could be some additional issues with upgrading the skills of team members, as they should also be up to date with the current technologies that emerge very rapidly in the world. So you should not only provide interesting tasks to them, but also help them develop in their career, to learn something new, so to add more value to a product over time. And obviously another problem is that the whole management routine is on the client side, so it requires a lot of involvement from the client, from the investor, to make the process a successful story. So let's go to another approach, which is time and material model. So let's imagine a situation that you have some part of the team like already onboarded on your side, but you require a new backend developer or designer, UX UI, or business analyst. So you can go to specialized agencies who have a deep talent pool and ask for resources to join your company. So what are the pros of this model? So actually, these IT software giants, they may have a very deep talent pool of persons working in different industries for different positions. So obviously, it's a quite good option. Additionally, you get the expertise of the whole department or company, as most often if some of employees of the software provider feel some inconsistencies with the tasks, so he will go to his technical lead or team lead to ask for help rather than spend the time of your team lead. Another important advantage is that you can scale the team or replace team members on demand. So if you already have several developers working from the service provider, you can request for more members to join if you feel that they are professional, that the developers that are working for you bring real value. So you can always use the option to scale up the team, like using this partner. And obviously, so if there is some replacement is needed due to some reasons, so you can ask for this service as well. Quick hiring process is another benefit. So when you're trying to find a person in-house, this can be really challenging unless you have a very effective HR department. So all large service providers, they already have very well established hiring process for recruiting the best talents. So for them, it might be quite faster to find the proper candidate who can fit your project. Another important point is that knowledge transfer usually happens at the cost of your service provider. So let's imagine the situation that some developer from your company left your team for some reason and you need to find a replacement. So definitely this person will need some time to learn the project from the inside, to understand what is under the hood, and definitely you will suffer some losses to guide through the learning process. And usually, like service providers, like offer like knowledge transfer procedure, which in most cases happens at their cost if you are going to change the developer or find a new one. So they may dedicate some time for that to help a new employee or company to learn your process, to learn the project. And one more important pros is that you can find the fit for several positions at once. Again, like going back to a deep talent pool. So you will not go for several companies to hire UX, UI designer from one company, project manager from another. So you can just ask for all that positions from one talent pool. And obviously, like there is no need to pay for the office workspace of those guys who have joined your project on a time and material model from your service provider, as they already do this for you. But certainly, like nothing can be so ideal. So there are some cons that I would like to talk about. So obviously, this will be a remote team. They will not work in your office, but they will work remotely. And maybe before COVID, it was a huge problem. But right now, with all telecommuting, like more and more companies do not find this as a very huge shortcoming. Another potential problem can be some issues with time zone or cultural differences. But again, this is depending on who is your service provider and what working schedule you will negotiate with. Also, if it's a remote team, like all the communication will happen online. So you cannot just go in your office and ask your developer to explain you something. You will maybe need to use Skype or Zoom or Slack to do this. But again, like this is not a huge problem, I guess. And obviously, for the time and material model, like management still stays on the client side. So you will need to have some product managers, some team leads or tech leads on your side to help developers from service provider side to find tasks, to work on them, and so on. And the third option is a solution type model, which is the approach when you just give all the project and mostly all the responsibility to the service provider, who will guarantee the success of the project within the specified budget, timeline, feature scope, and so on. So, and what are the pros of this approach? So obviously, like one pain can be relieved because like the management of the project is fully on the service provider side. So there is no need for you to plan the work schedule, to think over who will work on your product, what roles you will need. The service provider will do all the job for you, like managing the processes, creating documentation, and so on. You get the full team for the product development. So obviously in this approach, so all the positions that I was talking about before, so for UX, UI designer, backend, front-end team, DevOps, business analyst, project manager, just accept a product owner, but it can be also in some cases will be on the service provider side. Again, there is no need to pay for the office workspace because this is the headache for your service provider. Also, the service provider team is responsible for project delivery and deadline, and this is like linked to the contract that you are signing. So all the responsibilities of the parties will be reflected there. And yeah. Also, you dedicate the project to professionals. Of course, you will want to choose the most reliable partner, but I guess on the consultation or so-called pre-sale phase, you will understand what company can fulfill your business needs and really guarantee successful delivery of the project. So yeah. Additionally, it's access to the best talents and experts in a certain industry domain. So as long as the service provider takes all the risks for the project development, so of course they will want to put the best talents who have worked in the industry before to make it happen. And the last but not the least pros is that you get the full consultation from initial documentation and wireframes till product delivery and support. So in most cases, reliable IT providers, they already do a great job on the pre-sale phase to help with the product planning, and they will guide you through the whole step, through the whole process from discovery phase up to development of documentation, creating designs, and creating the solution itself up to its further support and maintenance. But again, there could be some cons of that. First of all, this will be a remote team. Obviously, this can be some company in your country, but again, it will be still a remote team. Again, potential issues with time zone or cultural differences, but not for all cases, obviously. And again, communication will happen online, mostly not physically, but there can be some cases that the team can come to your office, or at any time you can visit your service provider's office and make this happen. So this is actually everything I wanted to talk about. So if you have any questions, so please feel free to ask and I will be happy to answer them. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Oleg. So for now, we're going to start the Q&A session with Vitaly, Kononenko, and Oleg SVET. So I think these guys will be happy to answer all your questions. So if you have so, please, you can turn on your microphone, you can ask, or you can open the chat and type there. So you're welcome to ask any questions. Okay, so I prepared some questions from our current clients. I've got 3 interesting questions. So the first one is, how long does it take for you to recruit a specialist?
Yeah, it's a good question. It fully depends on the situation. As usually we have 1 or 2 developers for each technology. In each technology, which you can easily add to our client team immediately. But based on current situation, not always we really have 1 or 2, 3 developers, so it can be dependent from 1 week to 1 month.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the second question will be, so what is your employee turnover rate?
I think I can answer that. Okay, so in general, we are working very hard to keep it as low as possible. So, for example, at the beginning of the 2021 and up to today, we have it's at the amount of around 9%, which is very, very low. And that's basically the result of our work for the creating an environment for all of the staff that work here at us. And again, the following the competition. So the learning curve that we provide, all of the resources that we provide for our developers, project managers, and business analysts to grow. And again, the community inside of the company that basically helps that. That's basically it.
Okay, and the last question for today. So what is your main region? I mean, how and where do you hire?
Yeah. Now our main region is Zaporizhzhia, but we work through all Ukrainian and also have a couple of developers from Russia. So now, based on COVID situation, we are open to proposal from each Ukrainian or even not Ukrainian location. In Zaporizhzhia, we have agreement with different universities. We have our internship program, and we have some courses in university which help us grow as fast as we can.
Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you, Vitaly and Noah. Thank you for answering. So, dear guests, we are ending this conference for today. We will send the recording on your emails. So thank you very much and see you next time.